Okay, folks, we were just interrupted with our communication here. So this is going to be the continuation of our 200th GoldFish report on mind control frequencies and all kinds of methods and implementation. I'm going to continue now by screen sharing more of this document that we're talking about. And I'm going to go to let's see, top. We were just talking about this 800 megahertz band where the frequency resonance is located in the brain. And so I'm going to continue. Concerned Special Intelligence Operations personnel should acquaint themselves with Project High Tone and Project Zeno. Personnel in OM level support special projects operations are already aware of the human frequency operations and testing procedures which proved to be a great success on large populations base capacities in Los Angeles, California. And you can see that there is a in April 1992, which were the LA riots. Okay, so yes,
Yeah.
this was incited. This was deliberate, folks. Don't be stupid and fall for this anymore. Don't do
I
just
would say that they were doing something a lot like that in England in the 1970s. There was major patterns with major riots right across England. I think in the 80s as well, fires, and certainly the Manchester riots and various hooligan riots in Croydon in 2012.
hmm.
I know 2011, late 2011 in England, would 100% this technology was in use.
Okay, well, I don't, and I'm not trying to be disparaging because we've all been ignorant about these capabilities, but now we're being informed. So don't just go along with, don't follow the sheep. Don't follow the sheep into the slaughterhouse anymore. I'm trying, to get this information out so we don't follow the sheep anymore. Okay, this frequency wave manipulation can be utilized to the maximum benefits in a population or among select individuals when required. So this is what they're doing. The benefits to the CIA, the NSA, Aquarius Group operations, and Aquatech operatives are obvious. Winston, this is the answer to your question. Who's doing it? It's right here. Through the ignorance of the general population of the world, the cellular wave frequency communication facilities may be erected and utilized by the intelligence community to sedate, excite, or initiate a variety of physical effects and ills to implement population control or elimination at the time it is deemed necessary. However, this is the good news. Individuals who have implemented proper meditation methods and training are more difficult to allocate. Individuals who have access to or regularly use marijuana or opiates on any regular basis also represent a problem in control and manipulation. So, folks, here's your answer. How do we overcome this? What do we do about this now? This is due to the reaction and stimulus in the human brain that occur with the use of these substances, which provide an immunity of sorts to these operation techniques. The federal agencies attempt to eradicate this problem in its war on drugs is having some success in supply rates of marijuana and opiates. It is interesting that the so-called drug war has little effect on the supply of cocaine and methamphetamines, as these can only enhance the effect of the manipulation instead of decreasing it, as opioids will. Interesting, isn't that? However, complete control of the distribution of all undesirable drugs for use in general public population base cannot currently be completely eradicated. This is chemical control base in public populations, which will be present in 95% of the population base. Those individuals may not be affected by frequency control due to the usage of certain drugs will most likely negate their immunity with the chemical base that they have built over the years in everyday use and exposure to agents of the chemical and biological control base listing. With the general ignorance through arrogance of most public population in the U.S., the erection of large cellular towers being carried out under high tone and Zeno are largely going completely unnoticed. See, folks, when your intuition's telling you that there's something wrong with these towers, that this doesn't look normal, listen to it, because you're right. It's your high self telling you this. These projects are being carried out in private business capacities, as Winston was saying. right, Winston? And therefore in deep black operations cover. However, public populations would be wise to educate themselves in the construction of these seemingly innocent towers in large population areas. The cellular 800 megahertz waves are a constant wave. Due to the great proliferation of towers in key population areas, they will have a devastating effect when utilized by Aquarius group operations if the condition persists. And then they say, see a photo, see the attached photo. And I'm going to just scroll real quick, and these are the towers. This is not a good picture of it. These are indeed, does anybody recognize what this is?
Yeah, we see them all the time.
Okay, this is what they're talking about here, folks. This is
It's not the regular, it's not the triangular structure. It's the detail of what those antennas are.
Yeah.
And the frequencies, and those are much higher frequencies than a lot of. I'm very interested in those frequencies.
Let me go back to.
If you look in CERN, you'll see that there's it's called quadrupole or quad pole.
Yeah, a rotating pole.
Yes,
would be rotating.
Well, it is rotating in the electrical circuit. It's being made to rotate, but it's fixed inside Atlas. Atlas is
because that's one of the things which Puppet Labs is dealing with. And in my former school, I was educated in a fairly high la-di-da school. In their school magazine, one of their key students is a key member of the scientific and engineering team at the Hadron Collider, and he just looks completely wackoed. But the other thing that somebody else informed me was that a lot of the top executives, the people who in the management of these earlier versions of the Hadron Collider, a lot of them just died. They had mysterious deaths. Something seemed to drain the energy from them, and they would die.
Well, Puppet Master was run and taken over when the accident that happened when I was talking with Patty. That Puppet Master program was what really was operating, and it just went completely crazy. And the Archons connected with the Dracos were the ones that were.
Well, Puppet Master was what Barry King referred to as the one down in England at the Peasmore Labs, which were connected to the Greenham Common Labs, where all those women in the 1980s were all being hit with microwaves and stuff. And why women? Why postmenopausal women? I don't. What's the reason there?
Hormones.
Experiment.
They want to experiment. They want to find out what hormones are produced, if they can rejuvenate the system, and if they can rejuvenate the endocrine system, they can also destroy it. And
there's a central organ which takes over from natural estrogen production, which is suppressed.
Yes, because if you look at the chemtrail mixtures, there's xenoestrogens in that. And so it is very tied to the human biological form.
But also that's human reproduction.
Yeah, I've got oodles of documents on Puppet Master from CERN site where they had to go in and repair Puppet Master. They had to go in and reprogram it. It got wiped out.
Yeah,
and various aspects of Oracle Golden Gate. That's the 165 kilometer macro singularity they were trying to create. And that system, when I checked the repairs that they do at CERN every day for like a year and a half, Puppet Master was constantly going down, and Oracle Golden Gate was constantly being trashed.
What was taking it down?
Well, we're going to move on to another topic right now. We're going to actually go, when you're talking about these, we're going to talk about these towers. This is what we're talking about here in the photo. This is a tower in the photo, but you're saying it's not.
Sorry, Louise, I think, but before we lose this point, I think it's important to check the relationship of the positioning of the towers, between the towers, a mathematical relationship, and also what there's on. What energy line they're on the Earth.
Okay, the ley lines, absolutely. That's definitely a very important point. The ley lines have been manipulated because they're the energy centers of the planet. They're what carries the energies of the planet.
But also the intelligent, sacred, deep underground water system of the planet.
Yep.
exactly. The
Yeah, but
aquifers,
that's what I was going to
exactly.
bring up.
Oh, go
That
ahead, Winston.
well, you see what's above the ground. I'd be interested to see what's below.
Well, isn't it? I think we talked about this in a previous report where there was the aquifers at the bottom. There was below that, there were crystals. The substrate underneath that were crystal, and then there was the aquifers, and then there was um, these towers on top. So there was creating a resonance altogether that you can manipulate. Now, does anyone
Also,
comment
the
on that?
positioning of the wind generator systems, because they produce, the wind generator systems are suspiciously extra low frequency phased arrays to produce a scalar thing down into certain areas of the earth. The whole windmill thing it's produced to produce those harmonics on a lower frequency as the towers
Mhm.
vibrate that the windmill's on.
Yes, because that goes back. Now that's modern technology compared to ancient technology of using the pyramids and water reaction. Because
Yeah.
in order to control humankind, you've got to affect one of both of two things of water. Hydrogen hyperfine transition line is very difficult to manipulate. That's why it's used as the Akashic record. But you also have the water molecule, which the oxygen molecule in water, which is highly programmable. You can program that with just.
Do you know what the next internet is? The manipulation of oxygen molecules for replacing Wi-Fi.
Wow.
And it's, you can't stop it. You can't stop it from penetrating, and it interacts with noble gases in such a way that makes them no longer noble. That is really strange. Something to look into.
This is
What I wanted to do was move. Yeah, this is fascinating stuff, but we have to move on for a moment because what we need to point out something here in this document. Okay, this is talking about these other methods which we talked about are fundamentally the same. However, they involve the more electronic and electromagnetic charges and responses of an individual. So they can do is, this is interesting, the most basic form of electronic dissolution of or enhancement of memory call for the remote controlled production of acetylcholine. So this might be how they can trigger some people to become more violent, because they can actually trigger that acetylcholine in their system. This is an ester of choline which occurs in various organs and tissues of the body and is responsible for the transmission of nerve impulses at synapses and myoneural junctions. Enhancement or dissolution is simply controlled by manipulation, causing excess or deficient amounts of acetylcholine production in the subject in question. The consequential action of the motor end plates results in either a neuromuscular block or opening, which causes the desired effect of either an amplified awareness of stimuli or a sort of immediate and complete amnesia. Okay, so this is very detailed information about mind control, but this is going to tell you who's doing it. All of these methods have been or are currently being used by military intelligence groups to effect mind control. The agencies which utilize and still utilize these methods are most notably the CIA, the Office of Naval Intelligence, that's
But
ONI.
in this, Louise, Michael Shrimpton's data on this is definitely CIA and many of the agencies which we know and love, including in this country, MI5, MI6, the Cabinet Office, are German intelligence controlled, and they've been dealing with non-human intelligences. And this tells me this is definitely a non-human intelligence manipulating the consciousness of all life on this planet for its own use, and it ain't from here.
Right. No, this is not good.
And I'm not talking extraterrestrial. I'm talking about extra dimensional. This is a recipe for control of an entire biological species throughout all relevant dimensions in this domain.
This is, well, it's a good point what you're saying, Miles, because, we have to know who's doing it so we can hold them
It ain't
responsible.
from around here.
Well, you know what? They can't do it without cooperation from people who are here. So apparently those
They
people
they
are under
need
mind control as well.
Yeah, they need our reality management construction, our ability to work in 3D here. They must gain control of our consciousness. They must make the biological consciousness control it must work, and at the moment it's rejecting it. I have to say, one of the most important things that Simon Parkes talked about was that this AI thing is the biggest single threat to all existence here, and that's been an alarm bell in my head for at least the last 3 years.
Right. It's hijacking human consciousness is what
Yeah,
it's
piggyback on it. Yeah.
Right. Go ahead, Dan.
If you look at Lasco Soho, you can't look at it now because they've taken it offline. But I've
download this stuff, save it every time you see it, save it and get it off the line.
Okay. Well, I've got it in an area where I can get to it. But the thing is every once in a while, now I was looking at all the spacecraft, and on my YouTube channel, I basically put a YouTube channel up talking about Star Wars Actual, and it's about all the battles that we're taking on and place in space. And every once in a while, you would see this spacecraft come in, and it was a cube. It was like the Borg. It was a cube, and it looked very similar to the Yellow Book device, the Yellow Cube device, but it's a tesseract. It's basically a black tesseract. The vessel is a tesseract, and this is what you would call the think tank of predatory pathogenic artificial intelligence. When it evolves into a place where it's constructing its own ships, and its own transport, it's using a tesseract form, which is very, very strange. But it shows up. You'll see it all the time on C3 with a blue field, and you can see it in the red field because it's closer up. And those, they like to destroy that and then just send you out a repeat of something that came from a different time. The pictures, they don't want you to see it.
Let me ask Winston. I'm sorry. Sorry about that. I didn't mean to interrupt you. I apologize. There's a little delay, I think. Winston, do you want to comment on anything right up to this point?
No, that science there is way above me. I'm just enjoying the conversation, so no, I don't have any comments on that.
All right, let me go back to this document for just a moment, because I'm going to go to now page 48, and we're going to go to the extent that these organizations have gone through to manipulate us and hijack our consciousness for their own nefarious agenda, which is not for humans. It's not to benefit us whatsoever. Control of population bases has been greatly assisted in the past 25 years through infiltration and manipulation of large amounts of citizenry through Christian, evangelical, and far-right born-again Christian populations. Through the guise of Christianity, right-wing propaganda and control has been greatly expanded and entrenched. The irony exists here, since it is the Aquarius Group operations through their manipulation of this far-right, born-again Christian ethic, which will achieve a fascist state which will rival the hate and abolition of basic rights in Hitler's Germany. Contrary to the ways and teachings of Christ himself, this new Christian right, with Aquarius Group operations support, promotes a radical agenda of hatred for other religions and absolute intolerance for those with differing viewpoints. This stance is abhorrent to those in support of the American way of life, the rights and freedoms of all citizens of this United States. It is important to remember that our nation was founded on the concept of religious tolerance, not solely Christianity. So they're really, really using this in a nefarious way. The infiltration of cults and the Christian far right is just one of the elements which will lead to the eventual turmoil within the U.S. and a new possibility of civil war. Gee, folks, I mean, what's happening now? This is, like Winston said, this is an old document, but here it is. It's come to fruition. Play by play, exactly. This is explaining how one example of this is the Church of Scientology, which was a longtime Navy man. This who L. Ron Hubbard was, and you can get this document and read the details. But this is how they had some special ops who were implanted within that group. That's what that group was about. Okay, so all of the aforementioned cults and alleged mainstream religious bodies have one particular common denominator, and they use this in the mind control. Earlier in the document, I did not screen share this, but earlier in the document, it does talk about an example of a woman who was the second pinup girl known in World War II, and how they mind controlled her. And when they did that, they programmed hate into her, racial hate. And the only way she knew this was that her husband suspected something was going on and took her to a hypnotherapist, and in regression discovered all of the nefarious mind control that had been conducted on her. And much of it was hate, racial inequality, racial, and this is what it's talking about right here. It's talking about how all of the affirmation cults, okay, that is intolerance of fellow man and particular religions, cultural, racial, and personal differences, which are protected by the U.S. Constitution. So those individuals who make up the population of these groups, for the most part, consider themselves the only voices of sanity and logic remaining in the world. This viewpoint is duplicated at this time by countries in the Middle East and the growing tide of Islamic fundamentalism, which also promotes a radical theology of absolutes and intolerance of others. This is really serious, folks. I mean, I'm not making any, risking my life and safety of my family in order to share this information with you, and so are the people on this panel today. This is really serious, and if you want to bury your head in the sand, then I have no sympathy for you. But we all have to realize this is take a good look at the information in this document, and start asking questions and demanding answers, and hold the people accountable who are doing this to stop doing this to humanity, or we're done. I'm not kidding you. This is very serious, in my opinion. You can continue to read this document yourself, but this is really very, very far-reaching. And this is really what we're talking about, why I chose to do the 200th Goldfish Report on this topic. Because there is no more important issue than the fact that our own sovereignty is being hijacked, our own consciousness is being hijacked, and we really have to we have to accept that. We have to accept that that's the truth, and we have to do something about it. Let me just keep going around now. I'm going to be working on closing up comments at this point, and I wanted to ask each of our panelists, and take your time. If you had any closing comments or any other comments that we didn't talk about, any topics or anything we didn't talk about, to please make your comment. And I'll start with Winston.
Oh, okay.
Well,
No,
if you like to be last, I'll make you last, Winston.
no.
Okay.
I just, I've enjoyed the conversation. I mean, I've listened to Miles and to Dan on different reports and everything, and their science is so far beyond me. I'm bamboozled by it, but I enjoy the spirit in which they give information and so forth. And so I would recommend to those who listen to this also to go to the other productions, that these two gentlemen have put out, and listen to them carefully, because there's some very good information there. So let me just close with that. Hey, go listen to these guys and know what they're talking about.
Okay. Thanks, Winston, for joining us. It was a pleasure having you participate in our conversation today. And also, let me go to Dan, and let's see if there anything that we didn't talk about that you wanted to mention on this topic, or any final comments for our viewers.
There is a plan in place to affect these tesseracts and destroy them. These tesseracts are basically in obelisks, the top portion of obelisk where the point of creation emanates. And so there is proceedings in place to destroy these, and by doing so, also ruin the aspect of bio API modules and bio API, femto, and nano from communicating with human beings. But it still doesn't address the aspect, and we can do this without any loss of life, hopefully, without the loss of any life of anyone. The biggest key is, what are you going to do? What are people out there going to do to regain their critical thinking skills? Because that is what comes next. Once the mind control is shut off and rendered inert, what are you going to do to get your critical thinking skills? It's just something I wanted to
get them back. Get those critical thinking skills back, or get them started. It's either one. Well, thank you so much. It was a pleasure having you join us today on Goldfish Report to talk about this topic, which is not an easy topic to talk about.
It's my privilege. Thank you.
And Miles, our friend.
Well, I think
Would you like to
The,
leave?
the simple logic is that the communication technology we're using is accessing our consciousness at this very moment in time. So people communicated long before we had the internet and the telephone. Whole revolutions happened. So we've got to go to a stage where humans have to communicate in the 100th monkey effect syndrome, where the consciousness of individuals and children, we must understand that we are under threat. We are under extreme threat. All life here. We communicate with the trees. We communicate with the life itself, the stones, the earth itself. Communicate with the living being that we're on, that we're guests on, and help it. If we tell the earth, the living system that we're in, the solar system, the place that we're existing in, hey guys, we recognize that there's some kind of a really serious problem. What can we do to help you survive? We are the temporary guests here, and if we can say, look, we recognize there's a big problem, and then communicate within the essence of our own being, within the biological molecules and DNA that we've got, because the technology we've been suckered onto using, that we're doing this conversation now on, which is illustrated while we had this, somebody interrupted or something interrupted to say hi, perhaps. Communicate. The young people, the young kids today need to understand they are the people who are going to deal with this in their lifetimes, and let's put that into the substrate of our existence. Write letters, communicate verbally, have little discussion groups and chat, but don't put anything online. Start communicating in the substrate of our existence. And the plants, animals, and insects are asking us. We've got to communicate with them. I think if anybody wanted to read a book, it's Anastasia, on how the trees and the energies of life itself communicated to protect this wonderful girl, Anastasia, in Siberia, in the Russian forests. That's where the communication has to go back to, and all these little subtleties of nature, Mother Nature herself. Say hello to Mother Nature herself, or Gaia, or whatever you want to call it. And by all means, use your computer to enjoy life, but realize that we can work through this and win with this by being at one with the universe, folks. Was that a bit corny?
No.
That's all right, Miles. Corny's allowed. It's okay. Be one. No, I mean, really, that's the answer to everything. Is be one and not be divided.
It's because we are all connected regardless, but when we know, and we, by intention of causality, we connect, we are connected, and nothing can separate us from that fellowship of one another with all things. It's beautiful.
Oh, it's beautifully said.
And one of the things I think that annoys this parasitic, pathological, homicidal, murderous thing is smile. Enjoy yourself. Just be happy and enjoy life and make life something worth living. And don't feed the fear, but let this thing know. Let's teach it how to enjoy itself. This pathological alien intelligence, hey, you may have a pathological alien whatever, and you may be the most masterful, murderous, killing, whatever, but hey, you can be happy too.
That's a great message. But, Winston, what about, remember, I know we're closing up, but I wanted to ask your final thought on this. It was Jesus has said that there's more unseen than seen. And I think that it's so important that people try to dwell on some of these small but significant, comments and excerpts that Jesus did say. He was trying to tell us and wake us up. The kingdom of heaven is within. These, it's very hard. There's been many different people trying to interpret these small statements, but they are huge. They're everything, isn't it, Winston?
Yeah, I was just looking for something to screen share here. I can't quite find it just yet. Yeah, keep talking. There's something I want to. Oh, I think this is it right here.
Okay.
Hold on for a minute. Yeah, I got it now. Hold on.
It's the unseen. I'll never forget that. And I always think of that every time we talk about topics like this, because I wish that more of his writings would be made available and not hidden from us so we could learn this. But there's a reason why they are hidden. So they don't want us figuring this out. They know how powerful our consciousness is, and we can defeat them
Can
if we
you
stay
say
united. Oh no.
Yeah, that's right.
that?
I used to get that magazine. Yeah, that's Mad
Okay.
magazine.
I think all the old timers understand that little picture there. So I'll just end with that. Good laugh.
Oh, that's good, Winston. You're so good. He always likes to end and even likes to start with a good laugh, and he's got some funny riddles.
Exactly.
Our viewers are familiar with some riddles that are
But it's
pretty
worth
funny.
it's worth protecting. Fun is worth protecting.
Oh, you're absolutely right. Let's not, trivialize that. That's what it's worth living for. Go ahead, Dan.
In the words of Mr. Rogers, for children, play is serious work.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Hey, you know what? And I always said, so for you guys, may the force, can you hear this?
Yes.
May the force be with you.
Yes.
Good night.
May the force be with you guys.
Get them up.
Yeah, yeah,
There you go.
Okay,
Get your.
Oh, we all got.
Yeah, I've got some toys.
Oh, got 'em.
Cool. Well, it's been a wonderful pleasure. Thank you so much for all of you for joining us today on the 200th Goldfish Report. Couldn't be more important of a topic. And I want to remind our viewers, if you're watching this video, you are on BitChute because we are blocked on YouTube from uploading any further videos. And I do believe our channel on YouTube will be deleted. That is what they're doing now. So if you're watching this and you're hearing my voice, you are on BitChute because I'm sure you're not going to hear this on YouTube. This is a major censorship that's going on these days. We also had Richie Allen there in the UK.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
His channel was deleted. We have Jerome Corsi. We have, I think, even some of Alex Jones, but he's another story. He's in another category, but he is trying to get a lot of information out. And many others whose channel.
Yeah, I've been told, Louisa, I've been told that there's a group in the States who want to wipe out 20 years of the Basis Project, and there's I've taken a lot of personal hits and defamation the last 2 or 3 weeks, and it's very serious across the board. And that happened when I was investigating, where lots of others are being systematically attacked. Another colleague of mine, Winston Keach, actually managed to hit back at them, and he was just risked his life. Yeah. So he's doing his own research on that, keeping quiet on that. But he did try to kill him. They did 5 attempts on me last year. I got a phone call saying, Miles, you should have died from that poison. Well, excuse me, but I mean, nobody told me I was meant to be dead by now. I'm just so unpopular, But and the cruise control thing and a few other things. But we're still here fighting and causing problem.
Well, there's other alternatives. BitChute is one of them, and we will expand. It's not going to stop us.
Yeah, BitChute, Steemit is another.
Right.
And I've just been informed by a group in England that they will be announcing imminently a whole new thing which will have a similar Steemit type thing, but I know the cryptocurrency stuff's a bit but would allow a rewarding, uncensored new way of doing things. I don't want to preempt their launch, but that's happening. They've been working on it for 2 years, and a lot of us who are being threatened. I know I'm teetering on YouTube myself.
Yeah.
But we'll take that forward.
Right.
Imminently, hopefully next week. But
well, the interesting thing is, I asked viewers in a special message that I put out. I had put out a notice to all about what was happening and where they could find us should our YouTube account be deleted. And we've had about 500 comments. And the reason I asked them, because YouTube had said that we violated their community standards of and said that there was of bullying or intimidation or whatever. So I asked a consensus of the community themselves whether or not they felt that we had ever, engaged in that kind of conduct. And overwhelmingly, they said no. And when you form a consensus, you form a quorum, and that is really what we have at this point. So there are legal challenges to this. We probably know that it's an algorithm from AI that's picking these
it
up.
is.
Yeah, but it's flawed. But it depends on what tags you have on your videos. You will be flagged for that. But it is, at least in the United States, they have to, there will be challenges, and there currently are legal challenges right now in the court regarding this, and we'll report on them as they come along. I don't know if, I think this is going to be their undoing. This is a very bad business model to alienate, thousands and thousands of viewers who want to watch these videos. People will just go elsewhere, and YouTube will,
this is something which was, Louise, this is something which happened just before the People's Voice was launched, with David Icke's People's Voice, which was already compromised in its formation from day one. And I think I knew that as it was happening. That's no credit on it's no big deal. It doesn't make you happy. But what happened was, in Britain, there were a number of free-to-air TV channels which people were able to get things, and one by one they were all taken down. And then they were all taken down, and then the People's Voice was launched, which was flawed, and then that failed. So they basically swept the whole board and wiped the whole thing out. But we do need to develop our own independent transmission system, and hopefully this will happen. But we all still have to use the internet. But having said that, without YouTube and without Google, let's flag this up. Let's give them credit. Without Google and without YouTube, none of this is going to happen to start with. So maybe the original creators and to a certain extent Rupert Murdoch and Sky Television, if they hadn't done what they're going to do, we wouldn't have had any of this to start with. So let's give credit where it's due. If they hadn't put their dollars and their billions or whatever, and if Russia today wasn't putting their rubles where their mouth was, we wouldn't have a lot of this. So on one level, let's give credit where credit's due. Maybe there's a silver lining to this very dark cloud that's coming towards us at the moment.
And that means we have to give Al Gore credit for starting the internet. So we can't.
He didn't do that, did he? You cannot be serious.
Just kidding.
He had to take a break between stealing horses.
Yeah. And melting icebergs. So no, you're absolutely right. I mean, we'll wait and see where this goes. It's not a good idea, but they're doing it, and make no mistake about it that this is a sign. I mean, you can call us conspiracy theorists all you want, but you have to be able to answer the question, why are they doing this? And it's to censor, it's to control, it's not good. So,
I think the fake news attack on us 18 months ago has backfired on them.
Yeah. Well, let's just hope that there's plans underway that we don't know about that are going to reverse this and change this, and we're going to have our voices out there. I know all of our archives are all saved. I hope
get them off, keep them offline, and get them off hard drives. Get them on a magnetic tape. Hard drives are too easy to take out. Get them on to back them up on tape.
We should all go back to our analog California brick phones.
Right. Analog.
Listen, I've got a bunch of reel-to-reels here. We're all on analog tape.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Goes back. Miles has a really great archive, and I, would love to talk.
Well, it's just all left here at the weekend with my mate's son, and this car was big BMW right down to the springs. All these reel-to-reel tapes.
Oh wow! Right down to the springs. It's a heavy load.
He bought a cassette player, which is only £2,000.
Whoa,
anyway,
that's a lot of money. Well,
he didn't tell the wife.
Oh my goodness. So
Only
well,
2,000?
only 2,000. What a deal. I have a bridge to sell you. Tell them I have a bridge to sell them. Okay. Thank you so much for joining us. It was nice to have this also candid little conversations here and our anecdotal little um, intermediary comments. It's always fun, and it's a heavy subject, but we try to make it fun. That's why Winston tries to make it fun and bring in his comments and jokes. And you can always find lots of laughter on the country roads that we do every week. And I just want to tell you, fellows, how much I appreciate you joining me and us talking about this really important topic. And all of our new contact information is going to be in the description section. We're going to have the contact information for Miles as well. And folks, just keep looking for us. We'll try to be, we'll sustain ourselves as long as we can. But I can't imagine it's going to last forever. So
well, let's make it happen.
let's make it happen. Let's do this. We got this. So thank you so much for joining us and being part of our viewers and subscribers for our 200th Goldfish Report. Many of you have been.
And to you, Louisa, let's all celebrate Louisa.
Thanks, Miles. You're funny. Miles was like hijacking my interview for a little while there, but it's okay. I let you do it. I didn't really have a problem there. But he starts asking all the questions, and I'm like, all right, that's all right, Miles. We're friends. You can do that. So love you guys. Thank you so much. And this concludes this edition of the Goldfish Report.